My name is Jim Hawkins, and I have a story to tell. A story of adventure. It all began with a map. This map showed the location of an island and buried treasure. Men were setting off on a ship to find the treasure, and I was to go along as cabin boy. An old sailor with a wooden leg got together a crew. He was our cook, and gee, I liked him right off. But what a funny name. I'll never forget it. Long John Silver. We worked all one night getting the ship ready to sail. The whole crew worked and worked and worked. Then just before dawn, we were ready to sail. We were on our way to Treasure Island. Once at sea, we all had a fine time. Long John Silver especially was lots of fun. Golly, he used to sit and tell me stories by the hour. And his pet parrot sat on his shoulder and screamed, Now, there was a barrel of apples set out for the men. And one night I went to get myself an apple, but because they were almost all gone, I had to climb right into the barrel to get one, right down to the bottom. Then a strange thing happened. Just as I was about to climb out, I heard voices.
Keep your eye peeled for that.
It was Long John Silver and some of the crew.
Now, me laddies, you're a smart lot. No need for us to return empty-handed. We'll come back with all the treasure for ourselves.
Gosh, these men were pirates. But I knew their secret if only they didn't discover me.
Here, mateys, have an apple.
But just as Long John was reaching into the barrel...
Long-ho! That's it, lads. Treasure Island.
The whole crew went ashore. Loyal crewmen in one group, pirates in another, all looking for the treasure. Pretty soon I was all alone in the jungle when all of a sudden, from behind a tree jumped the strangest man you ever did see. He was laughing and laughing and laughing. And all at once he stopped.
Who are you?
My name is Jim Hawkins, sir.
Well, I'm old Ben Gunn, and you're a pirate, aren't you?
Oh, no, sir, no.
Well, I know that pirates are here looking for my treasure, but they won't find it. I've lived in this island for 3 years hiding that treasure. They won't find it now. No, they won't.
Long John Silver.
Yes, me hearties, it's Long John and me crew. And now, Ben Gunn, take us to that treasure.
Long John and his pirates had surrounded us. Ben would just have to take us to the treasure now. Our only chance was to have the loyal crew find us before we reached it. Ben Gunn took us to the far side of the island and pointed to a cave.
I'm afraid you've done to see Long John.
Right you are. And the treasure's mine.
Long John grabbed a hook and started to pry open one of the chests when...
What's that?
Our loyal crew was fighting the pirates. Long John and his men were captured. The treasure was safe. Our men tied up Long John and his pirates and then loaded the treasure aboard our ship. Diamonds and pearls and silver and gold and every treasure you could think of. So much that we just couldn't carry it all. So today, if you should happen across an island and find a cave, you too might find buried treasure, because that's Treasure Island!
Once far across the ocean in sunny Spain, there was a little baby bull named El Torito and 7 little Spanish boys who hoped someday to become famous bullfighters or toreadors, as they're called in Spain. Bullfighting is a very popular sport in Spain, just as baseball is in our country. And little Spanish boys dream about becoming famous toreadors. Toreadors are men who stand in the bull arena with sword and cape and use their skill to evade the horns of the angry bulls. To become good at anything, it takes a lot of practice. And in every city, town, and village in Spain, one can always see little boys practicing to become toreadors. In one little village, there lived the 7 little boys who were practicing bullfighting all of the time. They were Jose, Carlos, Juan, Esteban, Pancho, Manuel, and Pedro. They used sticks for swords, and they would wave potato sacks for capes. All day long, they would parade through the village, waving their sticks and swirling their capes, in the manner of the real toreadors in the big city of Madrid. In their own mind, they were the greatest of toreadors in all Spain. Outside the village, fenced in a large field, there lived a little baby bull. His name was El Torito. El Torito was a very young bull, and he had no horns on his head. Just little bumps where the horns would be someday later on. El Torito was a happy little fellow, as most animals are when unmolested. And he enjoyed prancing around and sometimes scratching his head on the bark of the cork trees that grew in his field. Sometimes, though, El Torito wished there was someone around to play with. It was a little lonesome being all by himself. Back in the village, the boys got tired of just playing at being toreadors. They decided that the time had come to be real toreadors and fight a real bull. Not a big bull, of course, just a little one without horns, one like El Torito. So they started up the road toward the field where El Torito was, waving their sticks and swirling their capes. 7 brave little toreadors. Jose, Carlos, Juan, Esteban, Pancho, Manuel, and Pedro. Standing in his field, El Torito saw the boys approaching, and little El Torito was happy. Here at last were some visitors, little boys who would talk to him and perhaps play with him. He watched them climb the fence into his field, and sure enough, the boys wanted to play. El Torito started to run, and the boys ran after him, shouting, waving their potato sacks, and swinging their sticks. El Torito enjoyed the fun, but suddenly, the sticks began to hit him. And with each hit, El Torito became a little more mad, until he finally was very mad indeed. And nobody can get quite as mad as a mad little bull. El Torito was all through playing and charged at the boys. And the little toreadors ran as fast as their little legs would carry them. But not as fast as El Torito, for he caught up with them and bumped each one of the 7 over the fence. Jose. Carlos. Juan. Esteban. Pancho. Manuel. And Pedro.
advertised in Boston, New York, and Buffalo. 500 brave Americans a whaling for to go, singing, blow you into the morning and blow you in hi-ho. Clear away the running gear and blow, blow, blow.
Well, it was in the winter of 1818 that we set out to hunt the great sperm whale. Our ship was named the Globe of Nantucket, and our captain was George Gardner of the same. It was a chill and bitter day when the command came, all hands forward! Man the capstan! Jump to it there! So we bent to the handspikes, and slowly the anchor rose, while the men sang,
All on the bowling, our bully ships a-rolling. All on the bowling, ho!
the sail swung round, filled to the wind, and we cut through the dark, icy waters. We was fitted for a 2 years' voyage. Think of that, you landlubbers. 2 years at sea, in the hard, dangerous work of chasing the whale.
It's now we're out to sea, my boys. The wind comes on to blow. One half the watch is sick on deck and the other half's below, singing, blow you into the morning and blow you in hi-ho. Clear away the running gear and blow, blow, blow.
And we all thought of how rich we'd be. For a ship full of oil and bone, it had many markets. Oil for lamps, for lubricating, for medicine. That was the wealth the whalers brought home to America. And on we sailed, into the southern seas, and down to Cape Horn. Week after week we cruised, looking for our prey, but not a whale was to be found. They'd all been killed or driven from these grounds.
Way haul away, we'll haul away, Joe.
We waited to see what Captain Gardner would do.
Put your helmet starboard, Mr. Whipple, if you please. All right, sir. Helmet starboard.
His decision was made. We were steering westward into the Pacific. Westward into the unknown waters that no whaler had ever ventured on before.
We'll haul away. We'll haul away, Joe. They tell you of the clipper ships a going in and out, and say you'll take 500 sperm before you're 6 months out, singing, blow you into the morning and blow you in hi-ho. Clear away the running gear and blow, blow, blow.
All day, the man in the crow's nest, he watched the water until his eyes ached. The rest of us was at our work on the ship. And then, one sultry day, came the cry from the masthead. The cry for which we've been waiting.
All right, settled! All right, settled! Sea breezes! All right, sea breezes! All right, on the lee-beam! Hello!
It was a school of them. Sperm whale. We sprang to the boats, and in a moment we were in the water, rowing for them, straining at the oars like madmen.
Spring, boys, spring! A strong stroke together!
And then, as we neared our whale, his great humpback rising out of the water before us, the mate in our boat cried to the harpooner.
Hand off, spring!
The harpooner jumped up, balancing his long spear.
Give it to him!
And at the cry, the harpoon shoots out, and the whale is caught. Up goes his tail, and he sounds into the sea, dragging the line with him.
What's the line?
We dash water on the line with our hats. Now the mate stands ready with his lance. Up comes the whale again to the surface, dragging our boat.
Haul in! Haul in!
As we draw nearer to him, the mate darts out his lance. The whale is ours.
And then we caught the whale, oh, the whale, oh, the whale, oh. And then we caught the whale with our quick harpoons. The whale, oh, the whale, oh, how quiet was his tail, oh. And then we caught the whale with our quick harpoons. And then we caught the whale, oh, and then we caught the whale, oh.
Well, day after day we sighted whales, for the waters were thick with them. And when we turned homeward, we knew that we had opened new ground. And we brought back more oil than any other Nantucket ship before us. Yes, we had opened the way for all to follow. Ships that would one day cross all the oceans and open up the whole world. All hands up anchor for home.
And now that our old ship is full, our cat's so great and grand, we'll head on all our stunsails and sail for Yankee land, singing, blow you into the morning and blow you in hi-ho. Clear away the running gear and blow, blow, blow. When we get home, our ship made fast, and we get through our sailing. A winding glass around we'll pass. We're finished with our whaling, singing, blow you into the morning and blow you in hi-ho. Clear away the running gear and blow, blow, blow. Of the Red Shoes. Once upon a time, there was a little girl named Karen who lived in a small village with her mother. They were so poor that Karen didn't even own a pair of shoes, and she had to go around barefoot until the village shoemaker made her a pair of sandals out of some leftover strips of red cloth. One day, Karen's mother became very ill and died, leaving her little daughter all alone in the world. But on a bright morning soon after that, one of the town's rich old ladies rode by Karen's house in her handsome carriage and saw the unhappy little girl sitting on the doorstep, crying bitterly. The old lady stopped and spoke to Karen, and when she heard what had happened to the poor child, she offered to look after her. So the kind old lady brought Karen to her home, dressed her in good clothes, and sent her to school. Of course, Karen was thankful for such good fortune. But one thing made her unhappy. The old lady didn't like red shoes. She had long since thrown away the red cloth sandals the village shoemaker had sewn. Sometime later, the princess was taking a journey through the country. When she passed through the village where Karen lived, the people crowded around her. Karen especially noticed the red leather shoes the princess was wearing. These are just about the most beautiful red shoes I've ever seen, thought Karen. Oh, if only I could have such shoes to wear to church on Sunday. Now, Karen longed so much for red shoes that when the old lady, whose eyesight was very bad, took her to buy new shoes, Karen chose a shining pair of red ones very much like the princess's, and told the old lady they were black. Next Sunday in church, Karen thought of nothing but the lovely red shoes on her tiny feet. While everyone sang hymns, she seemed to see the dainty slippers floating before her eyes. One day, Karen was invited to a grand ball in the town. She knew very well it was unwise to go to the ball, since the old lady, who had been so kind, was very ill and needed the little girl to help nurse her back to health. But Karen couldn't resist the chance to wear her beautiful red shoes. So she went to the ball, and when she began to dance, everyone said, "What pretty dancing shoes!" Then a strange thing happened. Karen couldn't stop dancing. As if the shoes had suddenly taken on some magical power, they danced her down the stairs, through the streets, and out of the town gate. Away she danced, and away she had to dance, into the forest. Little Karen was terribly frightened and tried to throw off the red shoes, but they stuck fast to her feet. Over the fields and meadows, all through the night she danced, until she came into a churchyard. There stood an angel with long white robes. "You shall dance in your red shoes till you are pale and cold." But Karen couldn't stand still long enough to hear the rest of the angel's words, for away the poor little girl danced over the roadways, back into the woods. There she spied a small hut among the huge trees. Luckily, her magic red shoes danced her up to the door. She knocked on it. A tall, smiling woodsman opened it, and Karen, unable to move anymore, fell on the ground. The woodsman carried her inside and put her on a cot. Karen looked down at her feet, which had swelled to 5 times their size and seemed to be getting bigger and bigger. But as she told her sad story to the woodsman, the red shoes, which no longer fitted her, began to split, and pretty soon they fell right off. After Karen rested a while, the woodsman put her in his cart and took her back to the old lady's house. The old lady had completely recovered. Karen asked her forgiveness for telling an untruth and leaving her, all because of a pair of red shoes. The old lady forgave the little girl, and next Sunday they went to church together. And as Karen joyfully sang the hymns with the rest of the townspeople, she seemed to see the white-robed angel smiling at her, knowing Karen had learned that kindness and love are far more precious possessions than a pair of red shoes.